Welcome to the Art of Black Miami podcast, organized by Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau. Our stories introduce emerging and experienced artists who make Miami an exciting place to live and visit. I'm Rosie Gordon-Wallace, curator and arts advocate. Miami is my home since the 1970s. My passion is cultivating the vision and talent of contemporary artists from the Caribbean diaspora, artists of color, and immigrant artists. Many cultures and languages come together to shape the character of Miami. Today we introduce you to Marjaries Marmolejos, a painter and muralist with a strong sense of community. He's the first artist in residence in Miami's Liberty Square, the oldest public housing development in the South. The artist is seizing the opportunity to tell a story of a neighborhood in transition, envisioning its future power in the world. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is like old times, Majaries, going back almost 27 years now.
Definitely.
It is such a joy to see you. Today, I want you to share a little bit about the Majaries that not many people know.
Right.
So we're going to go old school. Where were you born, Majaries?
I was born in the Dominican Republic, and the northern region of the Dominican Republic is a place called Puerto Plata. It's a very small town that is basic tourist town, kind of not too fast, cool pace, very influenced by Europeans and Americans.
And is there art all around?
Art all around. There's a lot of artists. And just like any tourist place in the Caribbean, you have the art for the tourists. So you have artists and then they do the art for the tourists during the day to sell and come back home and work on their own personal art. My neighbor was an artist and my grandmother was an artist. So I grew up around art my whole life.
And you grew up around women?
Mostly women. And then now in my life, I am the only man in my family. It's all nieces and sister, mom, and daughters. So.
What a nice place to be.
Oh, definitely, always.
So when I met you, you were already an artist. But I want you to tell us, when did you become an artist?
So I remember that I always had a lot of respect for art. And I always saw activists things since I was like 8, 9 years old, from traveling to the Bronx and seeing the graffiti coming up in the murals.
When did you go from the Dominican Republic to the Bronx?
I'm going to tell you something very special that happened to me. So my mom married someone, got the papers, came to America. She was one of the first people from the neighborhood to come to America. So it's like every story from most immigrants, you stay with grandparents.
Yeah.
So I stayed with my grandma, which is like the most best woman I met in my life. She was already in her late 70s when I was like 5. Then my mom, after like a year, she gets settled. She calls for me. I go to the Bronx. So I go from my grandma, which is like from the old century, we just used wood to cook. She hated everything that was new. Everything was old. So then I go to the Bronx, where it's like New York City, the hype of everything. So the first time I got to the Bronx, I went upstairs and we lived on the 4th floor. Looked out the window, there was a park. And in front of the park, there was some graffiti right in front of my window, and there was a keyboard on the trash, and kids around the graffiti and the keyboard. That moment right there stuck for me forever. So to go to the art part, when I really say, okay, I am an artist now, I was like 11, 12 years old. And it was on a Sunday. I grabbed the Sunday newspaper, and I drew from the Sunday's newspaper, and it came out really good for the first time. And I was like, wow, that's pretty good. So I took it to school to get some validation from the kids. Like, what do you kids think? And my friends were like, wow, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So that same day, I was an artist. That's it. At 12, I was an artist.
How has art changed that 8-year-old?
Art to me always been the reason why I'm calm and chill and collective, because art always been therapy for me. But art always kept me in my lane, and it kept me safe.
There is a image that repeats in a lot of your work, and I've watched your work now over 20 years.
I always use women in my work because the strongest people I've seen growing up always been women. Like, my grandma used to feed the whole family. She would get up, start cooking around 9 in the morning to be done by 12 because she's just cooking with wood. So it's like it takes forever. And everybody gets called and everybody has their own plate and their own spoon. And you bring your plate, she serves you, you go. So my grandmother was represented to me like a very strong, magical woman type of, like, mystical. So then in my work, I try to make women beautiful, but I always try to make them more strong than beautiful. So you see like a lot of strong women in my work, this sense of the streets, because I'm not ashamed of having this interaction with like the street. I know there's a lot of negative, but I also try to find the good in these people that have been forgotten because they're in these places.
I say this to you. Majaries is, and what would you say?
I don't want to sound crazy, but I'm a king. And I carry myself like a king. I take the title serious in the sense I'm responsible for a lot of things. I'm responsible for myself, my family, my community. And if nobody does it, I'm willing to do it. If something happens and I'm in a crowd and nobody reacts, I'm going to react because it's my responsibility and I don't need to be awarded. I know that as a man, as a king, that's your responsibility.
I met you as a street artist. That's what graffiti artists are. Artists who work on the street and on trains. Tell our audience some of the tools that you use both presently and past to create these amazing images.
I've always been so close to graffiti artists, but never been considered a graffiti artist because I always had this idea of like fine arts. And I always wanted to be outside, but also had so much respect for the galleries. In elementary school, I'll skip lunch and go to the library. So I'll go study books on Picasso and all the fine arts. And I was not taking no art classes. The first art class I ever took, it was the end year of middle school.
Here in Miami?
Yes.
What neighborhood is this?
This was Hialeah, I believe. And the teacher fell in love with me. She used to teach me, give me materials. And that kind of pushed me to even be more.
You know, we talk about validation all the time. And we're not careful where the validation is coming from. But validation is validation.
Right, from anywhere. From
your friends, from your colleagues, from curators, from galleries. The artist needs the validation to fuel the work. I think you work with or without the validation.
Oh, I do. Because I always been discouraged to do art. I come from that place where it's like art is not really respected. Art is looked at as a weakness on a man because art deals with emotions and things that men should not be dealing with.
You are an artist. This is who you are. I think you paint every day, do you?
I paint every day.
Every single day.
I go out. What I do now, one of my tricks is I go out to Wynwood and I sit on the side. I don't go inside nowhere. I sit by Panther Cafe and I just watch the people and watch the atmosphere and watch the kids and watch what they wear and watch what's going on just to get inspired and just to get fresh air. And I go back to my studio and work. I'm back in a state of being obsessed with working. I always paint it every day because my goal is to get better as an artist. I'm pretty sure until my last breath, I'm trying to get better.
What I also hear is credibility.
Right.
You know, you have street cred.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Not only with the work you've produced around the neighborhoods, but you're known by the everyday, ordinary artist. Point me to your most recent mural.
So yeah, my last mural was on 27th Avenue and 46th Street. The name of it is Brothers and Sister Barbecue. The owner told me that the actual building been serving that community as a restaurant barbecue place since 1952. I spoke to the owner. He wanted to do something soft, but he also wanted this civil rights wall. I got inspired by the neighborhood and the struggle of the neighborhood. And I heard some of the stories as I was up in the scaffold. And I tried to put that in there. So the last piece, you see like a crowd of people and they're kind of protest. And then on the top, you have Malcolm X, you have Black Panthers and Dr. King. And they're kind of like in the spirit and the people in the bottom are protesting. It's one of the strongest pieces that I've done publicly.
Majaries, we've been talking about the community from the very beginning of this. Define that community for me.
Community for me is like worldwide. I find common sense of survival amongst people of all race, colors, and gender. We're more alike than we think across borders because we all got different challenges, especially a lot of people in these cities have financial challenges. So for me, I always felt like if I could just help somebody go up the stairs, that's good. If I could help somebody push their car, if I could just treat people like a community, even if somebody doesn't see it like that, I see Liberty City as my community. I see Allapattah, Wynwood. I see all these places. We all need to pull together here.
This brings me to your business at the flea market.
Right.
Which, by the way, is no longer in existence.
No longer in existence, no.
The flea market drew from these neighborhoods.
All these places. So the USA Flea Market was located on 27th Avenue and 79th Street, Northwest, Miami. It was like a whole ecosystem. A lot of people that didn't even have, let's say that they have felonies that didn't allow them to work nowhere. So the girl that didn't even graduate high school because she had too many kids would do hair there. The barber, the other guy would sell speakers and do tints windows. I did a lot of airbrushing in the flea market.
Yes.
Which I did that to help me paint every day. I get to draw all day. I get to get better. I get to talk to the community. They get to tell me what they like and what they don't like art-wise. I feel like I was like bringing the gospel to the hood. Like I always feel like the art and the message belongs to the people that need it. These people don't deal with art. They deal with other stuff all day. There's mostly stress and bad decisions. A little bit of art, smiles, and love. And I feel like this is a good place for this. So everybody came there.
Yeah.
I always say a joke, and I always tell people, the flea market was the first Instagram. That was where you physically went for everything, from shoes to meet a girl to go out that night, to seeing somebody that owes you money you haven't seen in a while.
Get your hair cut.
Get your hair cut.
Get
tattoos,
your hair bought.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
Buy jewelry. That was where I learned business. I went to Miami-Dade and took some business classes, but the one-on-one business, I learned it from the flea market. And it was there approximately over 30 years. One day I went to pay the rent upstairs to the office and I saw a picture of James Brown in the parking lot. So I asked him, what's up? This is James Brown. I was so excited. I love James. Who doesn't love James Brown?
Right.
And the lady that was working there told me, yes, you didn't know James Brown opened the flea market on the first day.
2022 has been a really vibrant year for you. I know it didn't just happen because we're talking about years of work.
Hard work, definitely.
Tell us about the exhibition, the African American Heritage Cultural Center.
Brother Bayunga invited me to the show. I came out with the idea that it would be great to do a barbershop off the flea market. He always been very supportive of my work.
Absolutely.
It's somebody that influences me and I look up to in certain ways artistically. And I told him, look, I need enough time because I want you to close your eyes and smell it. And it sounds funny to people, but for me, it's a science. The smell of the flea market is nail polish mixed with acetone and fried chicken. What I wanted to do was capture like a moment in time. I did like a timepiece that it was like 2007, 2008. The floor was checkerboard style. I knew that the floor needed to look distressed. So I distressed it, make sure the paint was dripping on the walls. It wasn't done correctly. I tried to create something that looked like somebody cared but didn't have enough skills to do. I grabbed hair from a barbershop, put it on the floor. I actually went to a barbershop. They were getting rid of some stuff. And the guy's like, but that one is too ugly and dirty. I could get you a better one. I said, that's perfect. That's the one that I need.
Lines on the wall.
Lines on the walls. I made...
that nobody used the ruler.
Yeah, no ruler. This is like, I did this on my own. On my time, there was not too many customers. The posters, the music of the time. That night of the installation, I put some chicken in there. I put some chickens in the drawer, put the acetone, put the stuff for you to smell it and for you to really understand. That's why people felt like they were in there the whole time. The visual and also the sense of smell to make you feel there. So a lot of people came and almost everybody in there had a connection to the place. My dad used to take me there. My mom passed away and that was the last place I was there with. It felt very rewarding to be able to connect to that memory and somebody that said, oh, I remember that place. And that's what I really wanted to do.
Here we go. Oh, let me see one. Right now. Put them up. Put them down.
That barbershop that you created hit all of the senses, but more importantly, almost didn't fit how we show objects in the Black community for art. I was so proud that you took the risk to recreate not only the barbershop, but the essence of the 79th Street Flea Market, because these places are going and our neighborhoods are changing. So now you're an artist in residence, which is the art world's way of defining another level of success.
Right. Well, first of all, I want to thank Adonis Parker for helping me out and giving me this opportunity. My artist in residence is in Liberty Square It was formerly known in the streets as the Pork and Beans Projects. And now it's going to be known as an art place. So I'm the first artist in residency in housing projects in the history of America, pretty much. So I take that very serious because after me, many more will come. And I want to set a standard of respect and level of quality. I see this place, and it was originally a army base. And then if you look at it, we could be poetic and say, this place has been going through civil war for 30 years, 40 years. The same group of people against each other, same street against the other street. But these places need to be flourished and kept for the community that was there originally in peace.
The families.
Yes. So basically, I see this as a place that is the beginning of a format that hopefully will spread throughout the country. And we could get artists to live in affordable places or in these projects, quote unquote, that are going through a process of being safe. We're going through this tunnel and there's the light. And at the end, we're going to make sure things are better for everyone.
How is the community engaging?
So we're still creating the infrastructure of how we're going to do this with the community. Me personally, I want to commit to every Tuesday teach a class from 4 to 6 to kids and whoever's involved. And I want to make it where I'm there during that time so they know they could count on me, so the kids could come and we could talk about art, talk about the history of art a little bit with them. Because I learned a lot about history, not from history class, but from art. I traced the periods and traced the art and connected it to the people, and it gave me a lot of answers that I didn't find through the history books. So I want to teach them a little bit about that, and then materials and stuff, a little about airbrushing. I really just want to teach the kids enough to open their mind to being creative and being more like themselves. Just plant that seed. And if some will be artists, fine. But at least you have a choice to give you a different sense of confidence and being intelligent and being creative and being different.
How are you going to tell the story of Liberty Square that's in transition?
I'm doing a body of work dedicated to the community. I'm using the landscape of the community. It's almost like when a filmmaker makes a movie and uses a certain city. I want these buildings and these corner stores to be mentored in my artwork. And people know that they've seen that place, but they don't know exactly where they've seen it, but it's in their memory because some of those buildings will be destroyed by the time they probably see it.
And that's why legacy matters.
Yes.
That's why being a parent matters. That's why memory matters. That's why joy. And you talked about this meditative space that you're in. All of these things matter so that we don't forget.
Right. I want to make people proud when they see the artwork and say, oh, I've been to that corner store. So it gives them this connection of like, that artwork belongs to me a little bit.
This was an Art of Black Miami podcast sponsored by the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau. I am Rosie Gordon-Wallace. We recorded this conversation in the historic neighborhood of Little Haiti, a mecca for Black art and culture. Art of Black Miami highlights the year-round art and culture scene in Miami's heritage neighborhoods and across communities in Greater Miami and Miami Beach. If you are enjoying our stories, visit artofblackmiami.com to learn more. Engage us on social media, post and share using the hashtag ArtofBlackMiami. The Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau is an accredited, independent, not-for-profit sales and marketing organization. GMCVB's mission is to attract visitors to Greater Miami and Miami Beach for leisure, business, and conventions. For up-to-date art events, promotions, and more information, visit artofblackmiami.com.